My boys, if you're struggling to beat people in Madden, or if you're getting beat by cheese plays and spammers, check out the GG3 Squad official ebook that is launched if you want stat lines like this: 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 yards, 25% completion percentage, and go on great win streaks like this. Link is in the description, and I see y'all boys there. GG3 Squad. Something that you guys are about to see right now is the gameplay that I recorded over Madden 26 Ultimate Team, and something you're going to notice really quickly about this gameplay is just how frustrating I was. Now I know you guys are like, where's the face cam? Don't worry, face cam will be back in my other videos, but today we're just talking about a Madden 27 deep dive. Now I recently just looked at the entire Madden 27 Ultimate Team, well, not Ultimate Team, but gameplay, and honestly I can say it might be one of the best Maddens we can look forward to seeing now. Now I know we say that every single year, Madden 27 this, Madden 20, we said the same thing about Madden 26. But no, this Madden 27 Ultimate Team and Madden 27 just in general looks like it could be very, 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 very tough. Now, one of the biggest things that they added to the entire game that I found very interesting was the dynamic weather, and the dynamic weather being not just the weather, not just the weather having a natural effect on the game as a whole, but the weather having a strong effect on the player experience. Like, we have it kind of now in Madden 26 where if it's snowing, you might not see downfield well. You might be able to throw the ball downfield. But in this year, in next year, Madden 27, not only will that affect your ability to see down the field, it would also just affect your player's ability to not just catch the ball, but run. And also it'll affect the overall aspects of the game. Your screen might look different. It might shake. It might wobble. Things like that I find very interesting. But gameplay wise, oh my goodness, they completely overhauled the entire gameplay of Madden 27, basically making it to where the defense is a lot more tough. You know what I mean? They put new coverages, new softs coverages, new ways to adjust your DBs and put them in certain positions, new ways to put your linebackers in certain positions. They completely allowed the defensive aspect of Madden to be completely unique to the user. Now there's no longer the ability to just sit there and call the same defensive setups or offensive setups and getting cooked. You actually have to put some thought behind your defensive setups. You have to think about what and why you're putting players in certain positions, things of that nature. As you guys can see, I just fumbled. You know, the one of the most frustrating things about this Madden 26 that you guys are gonna see, I'm sorry I got sidetracked, but is the avalanches. The avalanches, the abilities, the way cards play, things like that are so frustrating. Completely going to be different in Madden 27. The entire upgrade aspects of Madden 27 versus Madden 26 is so incredibly different that it makes it exciting for me. Like, the thought of seeing your players actually have to put work in. You know, you actually have to put some effort behind the plays you call. You can't just call the same offense and defense and get bailed out by vanguards and avalanches and all that stuff. So more on that a little bit later. But as far as the gameplay, I mean, dude, you talk about soft coverages, zone coverages, you talk about being able to pressure certain safeties and all that good stuff. As you guys see, I blocked this kick because he was playing like an absolute bum, so I had to teach him how to not play like that. But like I was saying, when it comes down to Madden 27, the gameplay as far as the defense is a lot more unique and a lot more user friendly, and it's gonna allow people. You're gonna actually have to play some good offense now. You can't just call cheesy plays and hope that it works. You gotta put some work in. And something that they added in the offensive side of the ball is wide receiver timing your catching and passing in the wide receiver and quarterback relationship. The reason why that is huge is because the aspect of something that we never really talked about in Madden that was always frustrating is just how unrealistic it would be that you could catch a pass that you should not be able to catch. You should not be able to throw up a 50-50 ball and catch it most of the time or get a pick most of the time. So now you actually have to time the perfect amount of green between catching and it could be a catch, it could be a drop, it could be a pick, and it's all dependent on you timing the pass and catch, which I think is an amazing feature in the game because it makes the player actually have to play good. It creates that little bit of a skill gap there. Instead of being able to just cheese a 50-50 pass, you actually have to kind of put some thought and work into your plays now, which I find very exciting as well. So something else that was really exciting to mention about Madden 27 is the whole wide receiver jostle mechanic. So you know how in Madden, you might have somebody like a Richard Sherman or maybe a Darrell Revis or somebody who's just a very physical corner like a Jalen Ramsey, and they might be matched up to a 99 speed Tyreek Hill, and strictly based off the speed difference, that wide receiver is gonna burn that DB every time. Well, now they've introduced a mechanic called the wide receiver jostle mechanic, which is basically the DBs playing match in sticky coverage on the receiver, regardless of their speed advantage. The cornerback is going to play a little bit more aggressive to stick to that DB, and you can pick the different points of coverage that you want them to do. So, for example, you might want them to play a little bit more sticky towards the stem of the route or the top of the route, right when the receiver is about to cut, which means that DB is going to try his hardest to make a break on the ball to force an incompletion at the top of the route. You might want them to play early jostle coverage, which means that before the receiver even gets a chance to get out of his route, the DB is playing sticky coverage on him, making it harder for that receiver to actually get up the field and progress. And then you might want him to play it when the ball is in the air, which is my favorite one, at least from what I saw. And basically that just means that the second that quarterback tries to throw the ball, the DB is going to play right on that receiver to make that pass a little bit harder to catch. Now, my only concern with this entire mechanic is it does sound like man coverage could be a very, very, very tough way to stop people Madden 27, because man coverage tough Maddens are not the most exciting, because I mean, it's already irritating enough to play versus somebody online who has one step aheads and inside shades and all that stuff, press man glitching. But you talk about the jostle mechanic with that press man meta, it could get very scary for that defense. So that's just something to note as well. But another thing that we wanted to talk about was the while we're talking about the jostle, we're also going to talk more about the wide receiver pressing, the new press mechanic for the wide receiver DB battles. Basically meaning that if a DB is pressing up on a receiver, the receiver is going to play true to his route. So if I have my receiver on a out route, he's going to try to win against that press coverage on the outside. He's not going to try to go and just get jammed. He's going to try to get outside leverage so that he can make that outside cut, which is kind of nice. I'm excited to see how that mechanic works in game, because that is hard to mimic in virtual realm, because in real life, it's easier to fake inside, go back outside, get open. But in the video game, you're basically putting that all by chance. So there's not a guarantee that that's actually going to work, but also there's no guarantee that it won't. It's just going to be one of those murky gray areas. So I'm excited to see just how much that has an effect on beating that press man coverage, depending on that receiver actually getting open and whatnot. But another thing that we're going to talk about is the coaching DNA. Now, something that we talked about in Madden 26 was quarterback DNA. Basically, quarterbacks playing true to themselves. That's why Pat Mahomes does his little hand gestures when he's at the line of scrimmage, or why Caleb Williams does a jump pass when you're running off the field and throwing it. So the coaching DNA is the way the coaches call certain plays and get coach suggestions in certain aspects of the game. So if you have somebody like a Dan Campbell on the Lions, for example, in those 4th and short or 4th and inches, or maybe in those 4th and threes, Dan Campbell might have more of a lenient chance to go for it because he does that in real life. In real life, Dan Campbell is a very aggressive coach. He's going to play true to his character. So they tried to put that in the game too, which is, admittedly, that's pretty cool. I'll be honest, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure how much that'll have an effect on the user interface as far as the players picking, but I'm sure that that's more towards the franchise, the regs, or people that just like to play coach suggestions. That's going to be something fun to see in those aspects of the game, more or less than just playing online, But something that we have to talk about 100%, and that is macros in Madden. Now, Madden has officially introduced macros in the game, and macros meaning there is a way in Madden now where you can set up your defensive adjustments for certain formations on the offensive side. So that way in the game, you don't have to do a bunch of hard flats, zones, and different adjustments pre-snap. You can just come out in a preset formation built, designed for the play that their offense is coming out in. So nowadays in Madden, people like to run gun bunch, right? Imagine you set up a macro in your settings, and you could do this way before, early in the settings. So you could say, okay, versus gun bunch, I want to come out in cover 3 match. Okay, you come out in cover 3 match. I want to drop my middle. I want to drop my safeties towards playing aggressive. I want my corners playing, soft coverage, however you want to do it. And you set that up as your macro, which basically means you just set that up as your go-to for that exact formation. Now, when somebody comes out in gun bunch versus you, you don't have to do pre-snap adjustments. You could just go to your macros and click the one that you have already designed to guard bunch. And it will be like that forever. So you can pick that anytime, anywhere, and it will guard it every time. So it's just something really cool to think about. Like, EA is actually taking their time to play their own game now. I am aware EA was privately bought, so now it's functioning a lot differently than it used to. So maybe that has something to do with them listening to the community and actually taking the time out to see that their game is not the best, because that is something that we've needed in Madden for the longest. The ability to just say, okay, I want to be able to play good defense and not have to call 100 pre-snap adjustments before the play starts to be able to do so. So really cool that EA took the time out to do that as well, which is something that I'm excited to see how that works out. Now, smarter coverage. They introduced something called plaster coverage, something that we noticed in Madden, and it gotten so bad that they even put an ability out called QB Playmaker, which is the playmaker ability, and the ability to just simply get a broken play. Call hike and then run around in circles until your players start running different routes and then you throw it. Yeah, that's going to be a lot different in Madden 27 because of the new plaster coverage mechanic. Basically meaning that EA sat down and said, you know what, we're going to actually make these DBs not just sit there. They're going to find work. They're going to find something to do out there on that field. So if you're no more of that, okay, you're calling a post over the top and my deep third just sits there and watches the post go over him. No, he's going to actually say, okay, boom, I think I see this guy running over top. I'm going to run to him, which is going to be so much more fun. And that should help with those, those cover 3, cover 4 beaters, how everybody has a beater for every single formation. I'm not saying that it means that there will be no beaters at all. But what I am saying is it's going to make it a little bit harder for those to work because of that new mechanic of the players actually having to find work. And then it also helps with people who just sit around and wait for receivers to run back and forth over the field. Your DBs are going to do the same. So your DBs are just going to sit there in a soft zone while the other players' receivers is running from the corner to the middle of the field. That soft zone is going to actually merge to the middle of the field to guard that receiver as well, which we kind of have in Madden now, but if you don't have a good switch tick, it doesn't really work as well. So EA is kind of saying, look, now you can still do the switch stick, but you can also rely on that mechanic to help you as well. They're not just going to sit there and be dummies. They're going to actually try to go and make a play, which I find very fun, and that could be very exciting as well. So there's little things like that that's like, okay, EA, you're finally knowing and understanding the game. You know what I'm saying? You're actually taking the time out to really make the game look good and play functional like a real Madden game should, which is super duper exciting. So now they've also added new defensive formations, up to 16 new defensive formations, including 3-3-5 high over, 4-2-5-3 high, 3-4 grizzly, nickel double mug looks, wide jack fronts, single mug dime packages, new tight and under fronts, and several new pressure structures built specifically to answer modern spread offenses. So essentially, defenses have gotten overhauled. this is going to be the most defensive Madden that we've had in years, and that's the way they're marketing it. If you guys go look at the deep dive for Madden 27, the guy was very excited, and he was talking strictly about how much this Madden is going to be so focused on the defensive side of the ball, which is exciting because that's something that we've needed. You know, we need a defensive design Madden, something that, okay, we understand Madden is one of those games where it's hard to mimic a video game to make it play like real life. But the more we have the ability to actually say, okay, defensively, we can actually put up a defense that could stop this offense, that makes it a little bit more fun and more exciting to play, and makes it just ultimately a more fun experience, especially for a football game, which is just super duper dope as well. Now, we already talked about the wide receiver DB battles and the jostle mechanic, so that's the good thing. Something to mention about the jostle mechanic is it is one of those, they described it as a bending and not breaking mechanic, basically saying that when it works right, but when it does not work, it still does put your DB at risk of getting burned. So basically, you just got to know when to call that type of physical defensive front, because the last thing you want to do is come out and try to spam the jostle mechanic, and then eventually your corner might tire out, or he might just get beat. You know, there's no guarantee that won't happen. So it's just little things like that that you kind of got to be aware of happening in the game, and it could have a lasting effect on the video game overall. All right, let's talk about the scariest thing about Madden 27 so far, and that is the tush push. Yes, EA has finally succumbed to the peer pressure and put the tush push in Madden 27. I'm not a fan of that. I'll be honest. I'm going to be the first to say I'm not a fan of the QB sneaks in Madden. And the reason why is because it feels like they are so incredibly irritating and broken every year. They either don't work at all or they work way too well. But the good thing is EA did put out a new feature of timing the QB sneak. So essentially, if you're coming out in a QB sneak in the trenches and the defense that you're going up against is mugging the gaps or pinching their defensive line, it's going to make that green part of that QB pressure, that QB sneak meter, it's going to make that green a little bit harder to hit. And if you hit it, you get that yard. But if you don't hit that green, there's a chance you won't hit that yard. So I think they said if you get in the yellow, it's slightly possible. If you get in the red, you're not getting it at all. If you get in the green, it's basically a guaranteed yard or so. But my main question is, what if somebody pinches their line, but they still mug that gap? You know, I wonder if it's possible that even if you get that green, is it possible for a safety that's in that just dives over the line of scrimmage, can they still make that stop? They didn't say anything about that. I'm sure that's something we're going to definitely have to see about in the beta or when Madden 27 just launches them completely, because I think it could be kind of broken if it's a guaranteed yard every single time without even needing, like, there's just nothing that the defense can do. Like, if they get the green, it's like, okay, yeah, they're gonna get it. Which, you know, admittedly, we can all admit that would be kind of bogus if EA did it that way, because that would just mean that there's really no skill gap there. That just means that all you got to do is know how to time a QB sneak, and you're guaranteed to get yards every single time, which could be very bogus. It could be very bogus. All right, so let's more on the dynamic weather. It says a game can start clear and suddenly snow in the second half. Rain can build over time and then clear out. Snow can stop, then pick back up later. Conditions now shift dynamically throughout the game, and because of that, the feel, visuals, and atmosphere of the game can shift with it. So basically, this is the idea that just the same way weather changes in the day, you might get to a football game in real life and it's partly cloudy, still kind of sunny out, but then slowly towards the second, third, fourth quarter, it starts to drizzle, starts to rain. They're trying to mimic that in Madden, which I think is really cool. I think that's something that they should have been had in Madden, where instead of having a default, okay, it's snowing, so that means it's going to snow all second and third, fourth quarter. It means that it can snow for a brief period. It could clear up after that. And it's that tit for tat. It's that ever going, weather change, which is pretty cool. It mentions you saw it last season in that Broncos versus Patriots AFC Championship game, which we did. Once the weather turned off and the snow really started coming down, the entire feel of the game changed. The pace changed. The footing changed. The atmosphere changed. That is real football, and we wanted to capture that, which is super cool. It says, weather is also now more authentic to both location and time of year. In Madden, the month of the season influences precipitation chances, meaning weather patterns feel more authentic to when and where games are being actually played. Kickoff time and sun positioning are also authentic to the real world. A 5:15 kickoff in San Francisco looks and feels like a real 5:15 kickoff in San Francisco. You will also see major visual improvements tied to weather and field conditions. Snow now dynamically accumulates on the field throughout the game. Surface collision tech allows players to physically disturb the snow, slide through it, and leave marks and trails behind. If a player falls into the snow, you will even see it now, a snow angel style surface deformation and interaction on the field. Jesus Christ. So basically what they're saying is you're gonna see that their players are aware of the conditions that they're playing in. No more of that, okay, they're just running through the snow. We kind of see it now in Madden 26. They might slip, they might slide, they may drop a pass, but they're gonna emphasize that they're in snow. So they might run a little bit slower, they might slip and slide, drop a pass, but they're also gonna leave out trails of snow behind them, footprints in the snow, things like that, which is super duper cool. It says player degradation has also taken a major step forward. Uniforms, helmets, pants, and overall player appearance now degrade dynamically throughout the game based on weather and field conditions. Mud, snow, rain, and field wear build naturally over time, helping games tell a more authentic visual story from kickoff through the final whistle. This is one of those features that impacts both gameplay and immersion at the same time. And honestly, shout out to everyone who played a part in making this happen, because the technology and authenticity they pulled off here is seriously impressive, which I can agree. That is very cool. Now it says abilities, growth versus dominance. This year, we brought the ability system between both games into much more unified and player-facing structure. Now, to be clear, the back-end foundation of these systems has always shared similarities internally. But from a player perspective, college football and Madden abilities often felt like they were speaking completely different languages. That created confusion when moving between games, which I agree. That's why I did not really play a lot of college football, because of that player difference. And it made it feel harder for us to build a true shared football identity across both experiences. One thing that became loud and clear from your feedback was your preference for the tiered ability system introduced in college football. From the tiered ability system introduced in college football. So now that philosophy finally comes to Madden NFL as well, but in a very different way. Both games now share the same core ability architecture. The logic, triggers, activation, rules, and gameplay interactions are all built from the same foundation. That means when you learn how an ability works in one game, that knowledge transfers directly to the other, which is super cool, because one of the biggest reasons why I could not play college football was that it just felt so different from Madden that I didn't even understand what it was doing. That shared system does not mean the abilities feel the same. In fact, we designed them to feel distinctly different, because football is different at those levels, which is true. In college football ability scale, you have 5 tiers: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and Heisman. As a player progresses through their college career, their abilities grow with them. A bronze tier ability gives you foundation. Silver improves it. Gold takes it another step. Platinum is elite. And when you hit Heisman, that is when a player is truly playing out of his mind. That distinction matters. So in Madden, ability stack, you have 3 tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. But here's the difference. Each tier does not simply scale a number. Each tier can unlock something entirely new on top of what you already have. Take Enforcer. At bronze, you unlock increased hit stick success. That is an already game-changing tool. At silver, your timing window on those hit sticks become more forgiving. At gold, you add a fumble chance bonus on top of everything else, which is so much better, because now instead of it being a guaranteed hit stick fumble or a guaranteed hit stick tackle, demoralizing hit stick, you actually have to time those, cause fumbles, and all that good stuff. So EA basically has overhauled everything, which is awesome. I think that they're finally listening to the feedback from the community. They're finally taking their time and making a game that not only is going to feel like football, but it's going to actually feel different from the Madden 26s, 25s, 24s. Because let's be real here. All the Maddens for the past at least 5 years have virtually felt the same. You know, they might have looked different rosters, you know, might different kick meters, different scoreboards, but they felt the same. They didn't feel significantly different from the other. But based on the way that this Madden is being talked about, and based on the information that's been handed to us, I'm very excited. I'm excited to get my hands on this beta. The beta for Madden 27 does launch tomorrow, I believe. Obviously, I will not be able to record gameplay of that beta, but you can see to it that I will give you guys my honest feedback on what I feel EA needs to change about Madden 27, or how I honestly feel about Madden 27 as a whole. Because the way that this game looks, it looks like it could be game changing, not just for EA, not just for Madden, but just for the overall players that just love to football. You know, I know so many football players that don't play Madden because they feel like Madden is not a good representation of what football is. But based on what they're describing in this Madden, this could be the very first time in a long time that I think as a community we can sit back and go, you know what, EA, y'all stepped it up, which is just something that I'm excited to say, because Madden is one of my all-time favorite video games, and I've been wanting it to feel like a new game for the longest. So with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, this gameplay walkthrough. You know, I will be dropping more content on Madden 27 with the weeks to come, and best believe when Madden 27 does drop, I will be posting a Madden 27 video every single day. Ultimate Team, franchise, regs, we are going to take over in Madden 27. As you guys see, I did get the pick and finally beat this guy. He was cheesing. I know you guys saw how much he was cheesing me, but that does do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy this one. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you are new to the channel. Join the GG3 squad. We are here all the time, every day. And until my next video, it's your boy Tamashe, and I'm out. Let's go.